This is getting very serious, and to be honest, I can't believe Keir Starmer actually did this. Hey up everyone and welcome to Political Nerds. I'm Steph the Alter Nerd, your nerdy political guide from Washington DC to Westminster and beyond. Now of course, before I jump into this, the usual disclaimer: do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and I'm not inciting hatred to anyone or particular group, religion, etc. So yeah, let's jump into the madness with this. The China spy ring court scandal that could actually now bring down Keir Starmer. Now, what the deuce is going on here, and why did this whole lawsuit against at least two alleged Chinese spies fall through? And why did the government have a hand in allowing it to fall through in the first place? Well, as we know, Ed Miliband needs China that keeps building more coal plants to help Britain reach its net zero target, which, to be fair, just as a side note, net zero is absolute BS, but there we go on that. Now, to demonstrate its willingness to, quote, sup with the devil, the government is also about to approve a new Chinese super embassy in London. And this is despite the Chinese outpost containing strange basement rooms, the purpose of which Beijing refuses to disclose. And so this article then turns around and says it's fortuitous, therefore, that a potentially explosive trial suddenly collapsed, rescuing Starmer's strategy to essentially cozy up and be best mates with China. The two men accused of spying on an MP and of passing on sensitive information, both say they're innocent, now will not face justice. The tale is almost fantastical. To show the Official Secrets Act has been breached, the prosecution would have to start off by convincing a jury that China was an enemy at the time, representing a threat to the UK's national security. The Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, expected the government to provide witnesses to support this case. And by doing so, they'd piss off China, wouldn't they? And so Ed Miliband needing China's involvement to achieve net zero, gone. Starmer trying to cozy up and being busy mates with China, allowing them to have a super embassy in London with a dodgy basement that Beijing won't explain to us what they want down there. That'd all be gone as well. Because, you know, Starmer and his attempts to be busy mates with China would be gone at that point. If the government actually did what they were supposed to do and cooperate with this court case in the first place. Yet they didn't. Instead, the article says, in an astonishing development, Labour didn't deliver to the CPS's fury. Starmer's legalistic excuse smacks of verbiage and doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Implying he understands the law better than the CPS, he claims the only opinion that matters was that of the government at the time the alleged spying took place. That the Tories, then in power back then, didn't formally classify China as a threat, and as such there was no point Labour providing a witness. This is the thing. Whether the Tories classed China at the time as a threat or not doesn't matter. You've got, allegedly, two Chinese nationals caught allegedly spying on an MP and then passing that information back to their overlords in China. I'm sorry, but if that's not breaking some kind of spy freaking law here in this country, then all of a sudden we live in a world where pigs fly. And when we fart, unicorns and rainbows shoot out of our backside. Yeah, we really don't live in that reality, do we? Come the frick on. Now this is the thing. The CPS must have believed the present government confirming that China was and remains a threat would have been sufficient, or else it would not have tried so hard to obtain the testimony. In other words, Keir Starmer turning round and saying, oh, well, we didn't class China as a threat at the time, it completely is blown out of the water when you just look at the example of how CPS got to this point in the first place to getting it to court. They must have thought at that point China was and remains a threat. In any case, the article says it isn't the government's job to decide whether evidence may or may not convince a jury or be relevant. That is for the independent CPS. The same government that allows the prosecution of SAS veterans who battled the IRA to go ahead and under whose watch people are routinely jailed for the wrong online speech, otherwise known as hurty-yurty words, cannot find it in itself to help bring a prosecution against alleged Chinese spies. We're living in cloud freaking cuckoo land at this point, guys. As somebody who's meant to be a stickler for technocratic norms and procedures, the PM's hypocrisy is breathtaking. Starmer, former director of public prosecutions, is now clashing with Stephen Parkinson, the current director of public prosecutions. The blob is at war with itself. And as former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove said that China was indisputably a national security threat and that he could not understand why the case was dropped. He said that if the government had caved to Chinese pressure, then it was absolutely outrageous. Because the question now is, why didn't the government provide the information that the courts asked in the first place? Why did they essentially stonewall it to the point where this case completely collapsed? Completely collapsed. And another question I would add on to that is, why isn't China deemed a threat now? I'm just asking for a friend. Now, Simon Case, former top civil servant, is challenging Starmer. And before we get on to that, Stephen Barrett says here, forget the dozens of other scandals. This is the scandal that must bring down Keir Starmer. Labour will never survive actively betraying the country. There is a word for that. Yeah, it's called traitor. And this is where Simon Case, a former top civil servant, is now challenging Starmer because even he's seeing it. And there's something wrong with this freaking picture, guys. And so here, the article from The Telegraph says, Sir Keir Starmer's former top civil servant, Simon Case, has challenged the official explanation as to why a prosecution of alleged Chinese spies collapsed. The Prime Minister insisted on Tuesday that the government was unable to state that China had been a national security threat at the time of the arrest of 2 alleged spies in 2023. Now, the UK's most senior prosecutor has said Labour's failure to provide such evidence led the Crown Prosecution Service to abandon the case. In a rare public intervention, Simon Case, who served as a cabinet secretary under Keir and Rishi Sunak, his predecessor, questioned this explanation. He said intelligence agencies had publicly described China as a threat for years, suggesting there was enough evidence to go ahead with the trial. Lord Case told The Telegraph, quote, going back over years, we have had heads of our intelligence agencies describing in public the threat that China poses to our national and economic security interests. Now, you even have MP Chris Phillips saying on X that Starmer essentially is now being caught out in a lie. That his explanation as to why this whole thing collapsed just doesn't hold any water. He's saying very strongly, Keir Starmer has just lied about the collapse of the China spying trial. Keir Starmer said that the last government did not categorise China as a threat. That is a direct and easily disprovable lie. It is now clear from the Department Public Prosecution most recent letter that the Starmer government deliberately withheld cooperation and evidence from the Crown Prosecution Service that caused an espionage trial to collapse. This has enabled those accused of spying for China to avoid prosecution. The Starmer government has prioritised appeasing China for economic reasons above national security. This is madness. And this is coming from an MP, no less. He then says Keir Starmer must urgently answer if he authorised the refusal to fully cooperate with the CPS and provide to them the evidence they needed. And so even Ian Duncan Smith, ex-leader of the Conservative Party, is even calling Starmer out, saying the Prime Minister is not telling the truth. So you've got multiple very high-profile figures in the political sphere calling Starmer a liar in all of this. So Ian Duncan Smith says recent days have been torturous and deceptive due to the government's ridiculous dance around the collapse of the China spy case. And this is the thing. The question Starmer needs to answer is, why did he and his dictatorship collapse a court case against alleged spies from China? Because as Simon Danatsuk says here, and if I've mispronounced his last name, I do apologise, he says there's something very sinister about Starmer, effectively giving away the Chagos to the Chinese, collapsing the China spying trial. What else is there? He's not on Britain's side. He desperately needs stopping before he does more damage. Yeah, he does. In a peaceful, legal, political way, of course. And for those that still do not get the impact of what Starmer and his Labour dictatorship has done, this could be tantamount to treason against us, the British people, ultimately in the end, right? He's supposed to work for us, not against us. He's supposed to work with us, not work with the enemies of the state. Here, Basil the Great, saying breaking this is treason. The Labour Party blocked documents that revealed there was going to be a Chinese spy embassy bill in London. British intelligence raised objections and the Labour government gagged them so they couldn't raise the alarm. Labour have rammed through the application and blocked anyone trying to stop this. China has corrupted the UK government. We have traitors in power. Now, I have to say alleged, opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever with that ex-post, but yeah, I see it, don't you? And it's all ended up with the White House warning Starmer about this. America and China are not buddies. Let's put it that way. And for America to see the UK, Starmer, trying to cozy up with China, you think President Trump is going to be happy about that? What do you think that's going to do to our special relationship with the United States? Yeah, it's down in the toilet now. It's done. Because this has all ended up with the White House warning Starmer about this. White House issues stark warning to Britain amidst the China spy scandal. The White House has warned Starmer that Britain's failure to prosecute 2 suspected Chinese spies risks damaging the special relationship and could jeopardise intelligence sharing between London and Washington. President Donald Trump is said to be increasingly concerned about Britain's reliability after charges were dropped against 2 Britons accused of spying for the Chinese Communist Party. Ex-parliamentary assistant Chris Cass and academic Christopher Berry had charges of alleged espionage dropped last month after Whitehall refused to provide evidence. A senior White House aide said that the US had been warning allies about the Chinese threat to our combined national security since President Trump first came into office back in 2017. The Trump administration official continued, saying, quote, the US government exercises extreme caution in sharing information with foreign governments subject to adversarial coercion and influence. We are especially careful in jurisdictions where our adversaries can act with impunity. As in, we're now going to be especially careful with the UK because we've just proven to the US that we're allowing alleged Chinese spies to operate in this country without impunity, without any consequence whatsoever. And if that's the case, do you think President Trump and America is going to trust the UK? Not a freaking chance. They won't trust us as far as they can freaking throw us and then some. Thing is though, Starmer's Chinese spy nightmare does not stop there. Oh, no. Never thought I'd be saying this. This definitely was not on my bingo card for 2025. That is for sure. But snaps and claps to Speaker Hoyle. Yeah, he might now have other plans that Starmer is not going to like. Here, the article saying that Speaker Hoyle actually may be seeking to reopen the prosecution. So the two alleged Chinese spies whose trial collapsed last month should be prosecuted for theft or other offences. The Speaker of the Commons is urging prosecutors. Sir Lindsay Hoyle has ordered a reassessment of the charges against the two men after the CPS abandoned the case, claiming there was insufficient evidence to put them on trial for the espionage under the Official Secrets Act. And speaking of Speaker Hoyle, in this clip right here, he is showing he is absolutely miffed at Starmer and the government, as per his opening remarks in Parliament right here.
Before the Minister, I will wish to make a brief statement. Members will know that I've already put on record my disappointment that the charges against two individuals relating to espionage for the Chinese authorities have been dropped. Not only disappointment, but I'm very angry. It is of the utmost importance to me that all those who work in this Parliament are able to undertake their activities securely and without interference. I continue to seek advice from officials on what further steps might be taken to pursue the issue in other ways. I will be issuing an updated security guidance to members later today. I think there is something the government ought to be aware of. It is this Parliament that has been spied on. It is MPs who have been here. It is MPs' offices that have been infiltrated. And as it stands, what we have seen is the payment for spying on what I believe we should be protected. At this moment, I feel we haven't had the protection. I certainly don't blame the Minister. I know that he will be answering a lot in his statement and taking many questions. But I do want to put on record, I'm angry, I'm disappointed. My job is to protect Parliament. I feel we aren't getting that protection. I now call the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis.
So, if Starmer thought by withholding information that the Crown Prosecution Service needed in order to try and successfully prosecute two alleged Chinese spies, if he thought that was the end of it, if he thought that would collapse the trial altogether and that would be it, oh, no, 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 no. Speaker Hoyle is out for blood at this point. He is irate, he is angry, he is miffed, guys. And ultimately, I cannot believe Starmer did this. He's in trouble. This is extremely serious. And one question that is springing to mind right now as I end this video is Starmer, in the last 12 months, right, has been through countless scandals. Any other Prime Minister in the past would have been gone by now, would have been done, over, resigned, gone. Keir Starmer is still standing. He's still Prime Minister. Even after all these scandals, even after the news that his government withheld information that caused this trial against two alleged Chinese spies to collapse. So, the question that I've got in my head that's actually scaring the shiz out of me: who's protecting Starmer and why? Oof. With that being said, if you appreciated this video and you want more, and unfortunately with the state of the UK at the moment, there's going to be more, make sure you subscribe to join our Alternerd tribe here at Political Nerds. If you're watching on X, make sure you're following me at Steph Alternerd. Like, share, comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. Answer my scary question if you can. Who do you think is protecting Starmer and why? Any other Prime Minister would have been gone by now. Gone ages ago. But Starmer, scandal after scandal after scandal, and he's still standing. Why? Who's protecting him and why? If you've got your own theories, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate all your faces. And until the next time, you guys, laters.